gun. This gun's about like old classic styling in history. It should be in 45. Yeah, it should only have 8 rounds. So let's talk about Alchemy weapons systems. So I got turned on to Alchemy through Cabot Guns. Some of you will know Cabot. Now, I'm going to talk about Cabot a bit more in a different video, but Alchemy is, I guess the best way I would describe it is like a sister company of Cabot, okay? They are coming from the same brains behind Cabot. If you know anything about Cabot, you know they do some really, really wild ninja shit. And Alchemy's interesting because most of you have not heard of it. And yet if you got your hands on one of these, you would think, oh, that's a really, really cool 1911. Here's the best way I can describe how I'm feeling about Alchemy. It's Singer Porsche. Now, for those of you who might be car enthusiasts, you will know what Singer is. Singer, I believe, is in a lawsuit with Porsche, if I remember correctly, because Singer is not technically Porsche, but what they're doing is they're making throwback Porsches. So you see it and you go, oh, that's like an old Porsche that someone remodeled. No, it's not. It's actually a brand new car. It looks old and it looks classically designed, but it's brand new and it's got like all the new ninja stuff. And that's the best way that I can describe Alchemy. When you see these, when you're seeing these guns, you're going, look, this is a no frills. It's nothing fancy from like an aesthetic standpoint. It's very traditional, it's very classic. This looks like this could have been back in like World War II or something. And yet when you start to get in and understand what's going on inside of the gun, it's got all the new modern cool shit that you would actually want in a gun, okay? Including a trigger that is phenomenal, okay? I'll be the first to tell you, I'm not a distant shooter. If you want someone who's doing those 100-round pistol shots, I'm not your guy. Solid 50, I'd say somewhere between 50 and 60, more than likely. All right. So I'll tell you straight up, this is about as far as I ever shoot. Maybe a little further than I ever shoot. But just for the sake of entertainment value, you know, one of the beauties of 1911s, yes, they're very, very accurate guns. The reality is most of us will never be able to shoot them as accurately as they're capable of being shot. But on a 5-inch 1911 like that, keep in mind, it's in 45, it's not in 9. Not that that means you can't go hit a target at 100 yards. You can, of course. 70 ballpark. You know, when you got it, you got it. The trigger on this lends support to me being a lot better at distance, okay? It is really, really buttery smooth. And I'll tell you one thing that I really like about it is, I don't know if I'm just coming to this realization, but maybe I am. I actually really like that curved trigger / curved triggers in general. And if you'd asked me even a couple months ago, I'd say, hey, look, flat trigger or die, you know, it's like flat or bust. I'm really into these curved triggers because what I'm finding is, and if you see me doing this, you're like, what's this problem? Well, I'm a lefty and there's no ambi safety on the gun, so I got to come over if I need to make sure that safety's up. What I like about it is my finger very naturally finds its home. Sometimes on a flat trigger, I've got all this space that I'm working with where, what if my finger winds up down here on a flat trigger or up here? Obviously, that's not going to happen every time. You're going to have a tendency to find that same trigger spot every single time. But there's something about that curved trigger where you go, yeah, it contours my finger into the right place. And I really like that. And it's got a little nice ledge on either side of it where it lends itself very well to me being just very accurate and very like reliably being able to find the same trigger squeeze every single time. For the 1911 folks out there, I don't know about most of us preferring a rail, but probably a lot of us prefer a rail. And obviously you will notice on Alchemy this gun, and you will also notice on the other one we'll be reviewing, there's no rail. This gun should not, repeat, should not have a rail. It should not be in a caliber other than 45. It's not that I wouldn't love this gun in 9, it would actually be wonderful. And one of their other ones will come in 9, and this may come in 9, I'm not sure, but in my opinion, this should come in 45, because this is classic. That's everything that this gun is about. It's about being a classic gun, classic styling, right? That's what you want it to be. A rail takes this from being a classy, elegant thing that you show your friends, you shoot it a few times a year. It's like, this would be like the equivalent of, you know, you throw in some nice, you know, I don't know, loafers or like some Ferragamos or something because you're trying to look classy, and they're like, no, throw in some Yeezys. You're like, that'd be like throwing a rail on this. You're like, no, that's flash. That's like new money. That's not what you do with this gun. This gun's about like old classic styling in history. It should be in 45. Yeah, it should only have 8 rounds. This needs to have 8 rounds, no more, because 45, it's classic. It doesn't need a rail. It doesn't need, I don't want tritium sights on this gun. It needs to have everything classic. The grips, right? I don't want flashy grips. The brown on the black, it works well. That's what this gun should be. Tell you one other thing that I would really, I would confidently tell you, there's guns that I own that I would tell you you should not buy, not because the gun's not good, but because I don't think the company takes very good care of its customers. One thing about Alchemy is run by the same team that runs Cabot guns, same ownership, yada, yada, yada. And I do have personal experience there. And you're gonna see a handful of reviews from Alchemy and Cabot coming. And guess what? I was a customer, and by the way, these are not my guns. I don't own these. These are loaners. I don't get to keep them unless they'd like to give them to, hey, if you guys want to give me, it's fine. You know, it's not a problem. I'm not going to send it back unless you ask for it. I'm not saying I'm hijacking your gun, but seriously, if you send me $3,000, I will send you this back. If you don't pay me to send this back, I'm keeping this, okay? I'm just getting this out of the way, okay? But they take good care of their customers. I know this. I'll share some Cabot stories later on, but I know these guys will take good care of their customers. What else do we need to say with this? This is going to be a relatively short one, actually. Let's talk about that rear sight. So the sights on these, now keep in mind, this is a demo gun. So this is, even though obviously this is the gun that you're getting, there's going to be a couple things you could tweak. You know, look, if it was my gun, obviously I'm not going to just have, you know, a regular white dot on there. I'd either have, you know, fiber, tritium, gold beads, something. That's like the least of what I would want, right? But this is just, again, stock, you know, sort of demo shit. The rear sight, however, I'm really a big fan of. So they designed this sight. It's got a U-notch there. So that U-notch, I'm really digging. I got to tell you, probably most of my rear sights just have that, you know, that squared out notch. And that U-notch is really clean for picking up that front sight. Like, I'm really into it. Alchemy, I will tell you this about them. I think they're undervalued and very rare inside of the firearms community. Do you hear a company in their price tag and go, they could probably charge more for that? They're newer. You haven't heard of them yet, which I think is why, you know, these are, all their guns are running at like $3 grand. Now, I know for the, you know, like the crowd who's like, look, if it ain't $400, I'm not buying it. Cool, I get it. You do your thing if that's you. No, this is not Jake like, well, I'm rich and I buy nice. No, it's not that at all, right? I like saving up and just having a few things that I really love and take pride in. And I will be the first to tell you, I think that $3 grand is probably undervalued on these things, but they're a newer company, okay? And sometimes if you buy smart, okay, if you really buy smart, you find companies early on in the process before they've blown up and their customer service inevitably takes a nosedive. Not that that's happening with Alchemy or Cabot, because I've always had a pot from day one to now 3 years later, always had a great experience. But to find companies early on in their life when they're making really fine products, because they have to, because otherwise they'll get no traction, right? They're making really fine products and they're early on, and not that many people know about them, and therefore you can get some stuff that's undervalued per the quality that you're getting. I think that's what you're really seeing with these guys right now. And for everyone who's like, yeah, but no front cocking serrations and all this kind of stuff, look, I understand what you're saying. This is not the gun for that. This is the gun that you get as a classy gun that when your dad comes into town, who's like 65 and he's like, take me out shooting, that's what you give your dad. Because he appreciates the nostalgia. This is all about nostalgia. This is about taking old things that stylistically have maintained that heritage over years. You take that old classic nostalgic styling and you revitalize them with amazing barrels and triggers and components and comfort carry checkering and all this kind of stuff. That's what you're looking at with this. Nostalgia with a bit of modern touch. Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe to our channel while you're here. Maybe like, leave us a comment. If you leave us a nasty comment or you leave us a thumbs down, that might be the lowest form of human interaction these days. Who leaves a thumbs down on a YouTube video? But subscribe. You can find us on YouTube, Outspoke, Full30.com, 1911 Syndicate. It's very simple. If you're a podcaster, you just like listening to audio in your car, you can search the Syndicate Minutes on Apple, Google, Spotify, and you can always find us on Instagram, Facebook, all those good things. Just search 1911 Syndicate, and we'll hang out. Come on, we'll hang out with each other online. Let's become friends. Come on, just do it. Go, do it now.